In Argentina, all is ready for the first presidential candidates debate to be held on Sunday. In Spain, the death toll after a fire raised early Sunday in a nightclub in Murcia rose to 13. And in Slovakia, former Prime Minister Robert Fico's Social Democratic Smear Party won the early elections. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Authorities in Argentina announced that everything is set for the first presidential candidates debate to be held on Sunday. The city of Santiago del Estero in the north of the country will be the scenario where the 5 presidential aspirants will debate in front of national media and define the dupla that will go to the ballot. Sergio Massa from Together for Homeland, Miriam Bregman from Left and Workers Front, Javier Milei from Freedom Advances, Patricia Bullrich from Together for Change, and Juan Chiaretti from We Do For Our Country will comply with this process that is established by the Argentina electoral law. General elections are scheduled to be held in Argentina on October 22nd to elect the president, vice president, members of the National Congress, and governors of most provinces. Venezuela's Conviasa Airlines starts direct flights from Caracas to Barbados to boost tourism and business. The inaugural flight departed at 8 a.m. local time on Saturday from General Santiago Mariño Caribbean International Airport in Port La Mar and touched down at Grantley Adams International Airport in Bridgetown at 10 a.m. local time. The flights will be departing from Venezuelan territory on Wednesdays from Maiquetía and on Saturdays from Port La Mar. The ticket costs $447 and the plane is an E-90. This new route creates a direct connection between Venezuela and Barbados, which will facilitate tourism and business. In Mexico, the 9th meeting of the Puebla Group progresses at the International Baroque Museum in the homonymous city. The Progressive International Meeting is being held to fight hunger, economic blockades, the climate change crisis, and deglobalization. Former President Ernesto Samper of Colombia assured that all the current world political events are part of the change of era and marked in some way the beginning of the end of the previous one. He also stressed that it is necessary to continue fighting to defeat the ultra-right governments. Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez welcomed the support of the Puebla Group against the blockade imposed against her country by the government of the United States and its allies.
Over these 9 years, this organization has issued many statements in support of Venezuela's sovereignty and territorial integrity. It has also rejected the illegitimate, illegal, inhumane, criminal blockade against Venezuela, also against Cuba. So I would like to thank you.
The Vice President also emphasized the importance of diversifying the economy with the use of currencies soaring at the US dollars in order to achieve de-dollarization.
We know that the US dollar represents the hegemonic currency in international reserves, in trade exchanges, and financial operations. As you know, Venezuela has been completely excluded from the SWIFT international messaging system. So regarding de-dollarization, this year it has been particularly important, and the world has understood the need to diversify financial operations with other currencies, diversifying a non-dollar currency portfolio.
On Saturday in Guatemala, the Public Prosecutor's Office carried out a new raid to the headquarters of the Supreme Electoral Tribunal with the objective of gathering information for alleged irregularities in the presidential elections. Although the institution assures that the procedure is not related to the political party SID movement, which recently won the presidential elections, the prosecution intends to seize the Electoral Acts 4 and 8, which contain the sum of the votes. For her part, the magistrate Blanca Alafaro assured that the results were already duly officialized, including the triumph of the president-elect, who must assume next January. This is the 4th raid carried out by the prosecutor's office to the headquarters of the Electoral Tribunal in the last 2 months for alleged anomalies in the electoral process. In Haiti's capital, the closure of the border with the Dominican Republic has forced hospitals and clinics to cut back on care and medicines. The measure directly affects patients, as health centers have been forced to turn them away while rationing anesthesia and other medical supplies. It is feared that it would only be a matter of days before some facilities close. The free trade zones of Caracol, the industrial park of Puerto Príncipe near Dajabon, are affected by the lack of raw materials caused by the militarization imposed by the Dominican government. On Saturday, the United States House of Representatives approved a temporary spending bill that will keep the government open for 45 days. The initiative received 335 affirmative votes and 91 negative votes. It was approved with the support of the majority of Democratic representatives, which joined its votes to Republicans. The initiative is intended to avoid a shutdown of the executive branch as of October 1st, when the new fiscal year begins. The initiative includes funds to help U.S. citizens affected by catastrophe, but does not provide resources to finance aid to Ukraine. The initiative must now be voted in the Senate, which is controlled by the party of President Joe Biden. In Brazil, at least 110 river dolphins were found dead in the Amazon in North Brazil. The heat wave could be one of the causes behind the animals' death. The Mamimuru Sustainable Development Institute, a Brazilian state organization, reported that in recent weeks more than 100 tucuxi dolphins were found in Lake Tefe, where a significant increase in water temperatures has caused the death of fish that sustain the dolphins' diet. The water raised to 40 degrees Celsius at a depth of 3 meters, while above the average of 32. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. In Spain, the number of deaths after the fire raged in the early hours of this Sunday in a nightclub in Murcia has risen to 13. According to the National Police, the fire occurred in the lounge of La Fonda nightclub, located in an area known as Atalayas. The flames spread quickly through the roof, reaching the adjacent nightclub. The police force detailed that in addition to the deceased, 4 injured people were reported, among them 2 women and 2 men, all affected by smoke inhalation. According to the first report, it was stated that the fire could have been caused by a short circuit. However, the investigations to clarify the facts are still ongoing. Firefighters also work to rescue more people affected by the fire from the remains of the building. The German government announced tightening controls along its border with Poland and the Czech Republic in response to political pressure to deal with the growing number of migrants. On Germany's border with Poland, the Eisenhüttenstadt Migrant Reception Center is overcrowded. According to the director of this institution, they receive around 100 people on a daily basis. It is expected to increase to 120. The center is one of the first dams in the face of a new wave of refugees that has led the government to take measures to limit entries in the face of lively debate in the country. The situation is comparable to that of the summer 2015, when Chancellor Angela Merkel opened Germany's doors to more than 1 million refugees, mostly Syrians. The governments of Russia and Venezuela signed an interparliamentary cooperation agreement to strengthen bilateral relations. The information was made public by the lower house of the Russian Federal Assembly on its official website. According to the published document, the signing of these agreements took place after a meeting between the President of the Russian State Duma, Vyacheslav Volodin, and the President of the National Assembly of Venezuela, Jorge Rodriguez, within the framework of the International Conference Russia-Latin America. Both parties shared their position on the significance of this agreement, stressing that it will serve to promote development through interparliamentary dialogue and expand bilateral cooperation ties. In the framework of his visit to Moscow, the President of the National Assembly of Venezuela, Jorge Rodriguez, presented a wreath at the monument to the Latin American liberator Simón Bolívar. Prior to this act, Rodriguez visited the monument to the unknown soldier, where he also presented a wreath in recognition of the bloodshed by the Russian people during the Second World War to guarantee the victory of the Allied forces against Nazism. The Venezuelan delegation of parliamentarians in Russia is part of their visit to the first International Russia-Latin American Parliamentary Conference to be held in Moscow from September 29th to October 2nd.
Next to the statue of the Hero of America, in a beautiful tribute that the people of the city of Moscow have made to our liberator Simon Bolivar and his libertarian deed of the American continent. Very moved to bring a wreath to this monument that portrays the glory of the greatest of America, our liberator Simon Bolivar.
The President of the National Assembly of Venezuela, Jorge Rodriguez, emphasized that this meeting with the parliamentary representative of Latin America is propitious not only for the meeting of peoples, but should serve to provide solutions to the problems that affect the nations.
This is an event for peace in this meeting of Russian parliamentarians. Russia and Latin America for peace, for parliaments to be the main instrument of cooperation, the instrument of encounter and instrument of searching common solutions to the problems that afflict our peoples.
Former Prime Minister Robert Fico's Social Democratic Smear Party has won Slovakia's early elections. The preliminary results published by the Statistics Office early Sunday morning showed that with more than 99% of the districts counted, the Smear Party obtained 23.3% of the votes ahead of the Liberal Progressive Slovakia of Michael Semeka, who obtained 17%, despite the fact that exit polls held him for several hours as the virtual winner. Robert Fico is an openly pro-Russian politician who, although he will need a coalition partner, has already offered to end cooperation with Brussels in the conflict with Ukraine.
We think Ukraine is a huge tragedy for all, and if smart from the cabinet, whether it has the prime minister or not, we will do our best even in the European Union to get peace talks underway as soon as possible. We are not changing our standpoint. We are ready to provide humanitarian aid and help rebuild the country. But you know our opinion on arming Ukraine.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Found short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In Zimbabwe, about 40 mine employees in Chakari, Chekutu district are reportedly trapped underground, and at least 6 deaths reported after the mine collapse Friday morning. Rescuers warn that the death toll could rise as the removal, search and rescue efforts continue. They also detailed that the number of people trapped in underground is not yet known. However, according to the records, more than 40 people were in the mine at the moment when the walls collapsed. Some of these workers managed to get out quickly before the earth began to move. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, opposition politician Martin Fayulu confirmed his candidacy for the presidential election. President who has been in power since January 2019 and is standing for re-election.
Having listened to the people's urgent request, the Lamuka coalition has decided to submit my candidacy for the presidential election in December 2023. We are going to continue to fight to demand greater transparency in the elections, just as we didn't achieve transparency through the audit of the electoral register. We will achieve it through election monitoring. We fully agree with the CENSO ECC electoral observation mission that, and I quote, transparency and inclusion are a lever for peace and stability in the Democratic Republic of Congo, before, during and after the elections. Thank you very much.
In Somalia, at least 5 people were killed in a suicide bomb attack in the capital of Mogadishu. Somali authorities are investigating this new attack by the radical group Al-Shabaab on a tea shop at the checkpoint on the road to the presidential palace and parliament. According to the perpetrators, the explosion actually killed 11 military personnel and wounded 18 other people. Also on Saturday, members of this radical group threw a grenade at a checkpoint in Kelisa Villacha on the outskirts of Mogadishu, but there are no casualties have yet been reported. And they also exploded a car bomb, which killed at least 6 people and wounded 15 others in Bolobute in the Hiran region. This Al-Shabaab offensive follows an army raid last Monday in the Mudug region in which 70 Al-Shabaab militants were killed. In Palestine, a new Israeli attack left 1 young Palestinian dead and another injured. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, the young man died as a result of severe gunshot wounds in the town of Al-Bireh. Israeli soldiers set up a roadblock at the entrance of the settlement and opened fire on the vehicle in which the two youth were traveling. According to the Palestinian Red Crescent, Israeli occupation forces prevented the entry of rescue teams to the scene of the incident. Local media claimed that the wounded youth were transported on stretchers by the military to the settlement before the arrival of Israeli ambulances to the scene. In China, the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad accused the United States of colluding with terrorists who are smuggling oil from the Middle Eastern country, leading to a widespread energy crisis across Syria. During his first visit to the country since 2004, Assad held meetings with Chinese President Xi Jinping and attended the opening ceremony of the 19th Asian Games in the eastern city of Hangzhou. In an interview with China Central Television, the visiting Assad discussed a number of key issues, highlighting the hugely damaging impact that predominantly U.S.-led foreign interference has had on his country and on the Middle East region in general. Assad said the U.S. has shown to be responsible for stealing other countries' resources by force through acts of piracy.
صحيح الشمالية الشرقية من سوريا
Yes, behind all the oil wells controlled by the terrorists in northeast Syria is the United States. So, it is not just a matter of theft. They are also colluding with terrorists and sharing benefits. This means even some global superpowers are working with terrorists. This is what's happening in Syria. As a result, we have lost oil resources and made wheat producing areas in that region. You know, we used to be a wheat exporting country, but now we only have a very little wheat. We are also facing power shortage. How can people live without electricity? We only have a tiny amount of electricity to support people's lives. It is not enough.
In China, on the first day of the Golden Week holiday, a record number of rail commuters were on the move. The Traffic Management Department reported high traffic volume after monitoring 500 major nodes in 71 expressways. As the Holy Week began on Friday, the National Railroads also registered a record number of 20 million passengers for a single day. Authorities have deployed personnel to handle the increase of travelers during this year's Golden Week, while analysts predict that this will be the busiest holiday week in years. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.